Hi everyone, my name's Lily. I am the book reviewer behind Utopia State of Mind, and today I'm going to chat with you about how you can read more diversely. This has been a conversation that I feel like I've seen around for a couple months. I've been kind of trying to figure out how I want to talk about the situation and also give concrete tips, so that's why it's been a little bit of time since I initially saw it before I come to you with helpful advice, hopefully. I want to just touch base on a few things, I guess, before I talk about my tips. The first one is I've seen a lot of people talk about sort of why should they read diversely. I've had a really hard time figuring out how I want to answer this because I think for me, it seems very much like I would like to read about the world that I inhabit, the people who inhabit, the people that I see around the streets. I want to read stories by them, for them, about them. And so for me, that's kind of why I want to read more diversely. That's why I'm pushing myself to read more diversely. I also feel like it's not something that it's like, oh, I've read X, right? So if you've seen a wrap up of mine in the past, you'll see that my goal is always to read 50% main characters of color in a reading month. And so it's not like, oh, okay, I've done 50%, pat on the back, I'm done. I'm always trying to challenge myself to go further, to read about more marginalizations, which I'm not reading about always as much, to continue to learn and to continue to diversify my reading. So I think that is the baseline of what I try to do, and also kind of why it's difficult for me to answer why you should read more diversely or why you should care about reading diversely. To me, it has a lot of similar vibes about like, why should we care about representation? And to me, often the people who are asking these questions have never had to worry about representation. They've never had to see something and realize, that the people in the film, the people in the TV, the people in books, they don't represent or they don't reflect who they are. They don't reflect the communities they live in. They don't reflect the cities they live in. And so I think that as a basic thing, right? We need representation for people who have never had representation to see. For me, on my personal reading journey, it has been particularly impactful and profound to see the representation trends go up in certain areas that relate to my life. And so that's kind of why I've been struggling to kind of answer why they should do it. And I think as well, when we're talking about why we should read diversely in terms of books, I think that there are two reasons. One, our world very much does care about what a person's ethnicity is, what a person looks like, what a person's marginalizations are. A lot of people have been like, oh, well, I don't judge a book by who wrote it, so why should I care about that? And I would say that the world very much does care about that. That may be an opinion that you have, but the world definitely does not agree with that. The world definitely judges people differently based on their marginalizations and how they appear, based on their background and everything. So I think that to me has a little bit of like rose tinged glasses, in the sense that like it would be great for everyone to be treated equally and for it not to matter as much, but the stark reality of it is that it does matter in our world and our society. And so we should be doing justice to the struggles and the obstacles people have to overcome and to have to deal with on a daily basis to live in the world that we live in. And secondly, publishing cares. So the subset of publishing definitely does care about how people are, in terms of whether or not a book gets more marketing budget, whether or not things become a lead title, how they position books in terms of the market, in terms of sales, in terms of, advertising. Publishing definitely does care. And so I definitely think that because of those two reasons, and also what I said before, that is why it's extremely important to read diversely within the book community, and also to like experience life diversely, I guess. So I want to talk about some tips and some things that I do to read more diversely. And the first thing I think will be self-evident, which is do a little bit of a check-in, identify to yourself what areas you want to talk about, because I think that for a lot of people it can be very overwhelming to think, oh, I have to read this and this and this, and I have to read like take a step back and look at what you're reading, look at the areas you want to improve, and try to get a baseline about how your reading is right now. I think that every year at the end, I kind of take some time to reflect about what certain things would I want to be pushing myself to read more diversely in the next year. So I think part of reading diversely is to realize it's an ongoing task. And secondly, it requires a lot of different check-ins to see about how you're doing, the types of different diversities you're reading, and you need to have a little bit of a flexibility and a willingness to continue learning to first embark on the reading more diversely aim. Um, so to do that, I think that the first thing is that you surround yourself with content that is more diverse, that whether that means follow more creators who are talking about diverse books, not only looking at the books that you consume, but also media that you consume, trying to integrate yourselves more into spaces that to conversations about representation and diversity are happening in general. I think that's one of the first things to do besides already addressing where you want to improve upon. Um, Secondly, I think that it's also very clear that during specific history or heritage months, publishers and bookstores and reading entities, like, for example, reading communities, LibroFam, they will come out with specialized lists that are like, for example, our picks for Black History Month. Definitely take a look at those, and also I would say bookmark them, because I think that it is important to read diversely all year round and to read a variety of, for example, Black stories not only in February, read a variety of Asian stories not only in May. You should be realizing this is more of a journey. This is a long haul. It's going to be more about the journey that you go on, because I don't really ever think that there is a finish line. I don't really feel like there is ever an ending, like I've completely read diversely and I have nothing else to learn. Like that's not it, and also that's not the goal. Additionally, sometimes bookstores, independent bookstores, will also have specially curated tables, specially curated themes as well. So definitely make sure to check out an independent bookstore in your area, see what kind of things that they have to offer as well. I think booksellers are an incredible resource in terms of this specific topic. I would say number 3 is that you make sure that you check an author's backlist. I don't know if this is like super evident, so this is not a useful tip, but when I read a book that I really like, I will often go back in the past and see what other books this person has come out with and what books are coming up. I will add them to my TBR on both of these sides. And so definitely make sure, if you read a book that you really like, you love the voice, you love the character, you love the writing style, go back and do some research about reading the author's backlist, seeing what they have in the future. Try to keep remembering or a list at least of authors that you want to keep checking in with, keep touching base with. I think that this helps as well, but I think similarly, my 4th one is also see whose books they've blurbed. On the front of the book, or even on, a bookstore's website or a book page, it says, this book was extremely profound, signed Lily, right? See what books other people are blurbing, see what books, see who appears on blurbs for other ones. You start to see a little bit more of the bookish community, the author community, and you can also get a little bit of a better sense about who is enjoying, who is reading, who's recommending these books. And oftentimes they correlate to books and authors who are talking more about representation and diversity in their own work as well. So definitely wanted to mention that as the 4th pick. 5th is kind of going back to the first one, but when you constantly curate a feed and exposure to more diverse books and remembering to add them not only to your TBR, but to then actively be like, okay, I want to pick a book off of my TBR, then you will start to see more content sort of given to you that reinforce that. You'll start to go into more of a space where they talk about those types of issues that matter. For example, if you're watching this video, you're already on a great start. And I think finally, the last thing I want to talk about is making this accessible, making this manageable to you. As I said in the beginning, I think that sometimes when people hear this and they think about what they have to do, and then they get really overwhelmed and really overstressed about everything, right? Like, I want to make sure that I'm reading a book from XYZ, and like every month I want to write, just take a step back and make a concrete, manageable goal. Okay, this month I want to read, X books by whatever, right? This month I want to do a different one. This month I want to read about intersectional identities. So, for example, queer, BIPOC main characters, right? Make manageable goals for yourself, because otherwise you're not going to be inspired and you're not going to feel like you want to change and get better. There is an entire community of people who will be rooting for you, people who will help support you, people who will give recommendations for you, but you also need to as normal, you also should be doing this as well for your own motivations. And I can agree. I think that it becomes very hard to kind of think about everything. I know that sometimes I fall into the struggle as well. I think, okay, I really should be reading more of this. I don't know what I should do. Should I like stop reading this? Should I read more of this? Right? You have to realize that, as I said earlier, it's about the journey, it's about the growth, and to kind of give yourself some flexibility and learning space as well, which is why I think making concrete, manageable goals is so important, but also to be realistic about them. And I guess finally, this probably should have gone earlier in the video, but I guess finally, kind of look as well at other different types of books that you can be reading that will help with your idea to read more diversely. It's not only that you have to read like nonfiction books, it's not only that you have to read memoirs, it's not only that you have to read prose fiction. You could be reading novellas, you could be reading graphic novels, you definitely could also be listening to audiobooks. Try to think about ways in which you can put reading more diversely into a variety of different formats, a variety of different ways that will work for you. This whole goal, obviously, is only to find a way that is sustainable and a way you enjoy and a way that works for you. Not everyone's sort of, this is what I did, follow my 10-step plan. Not everyone's 10-step plan is going to work for you. So it's important to kind of figure out what mediums, figure out what ways, what formats, what kind of genres start working for you, and then to explore, to challenge yourself as well, and realize that it's not just one kind of thing that you're going to try. You're going to have to try a whole lot of things to see what ends up sticking for you. So I hope that this video was helpful to you all. If you have any other tips for other people in the comments, leave them below there, and I will see you in the next video, hopefully the next wrap up, and we can talk a little bit more about diverse reading. Okay, bye.